Okay, so I am Avery. I am a senior at Boise State. I am getting my bachelor's in social science with emphasis in criminal justice and Spanish, and I'm graduating this May. And upon graduation, I hope to work with social work or with linguistics in the behavioral analysis unit with the FBI.
And I'm Maddie Lines. I am also going to be graduating this May with my degree in social science. I'm wanting to work in the community or with substance abuse.
So first, we are with Body Mind Health Services, and this is a mental health agency that exists to provide the best mental health care available. We embrace physical fitness, nutrition, outdoor activities, and community involvement as a core principle of our mental health counseling services. And we have an office right now in Boise, one in Middleton, and we are now starting services in Moscow, Idaho as well.
So the ABM resources are the community-based rehabilitation services, so CBRS, targeted service coordination, outpatient psychotherapy, peer support services, family support services, medication management, or New American Support, aka refugee services.
Okay, so we're talking about enabling boundaries and codependency. So first, we're going to do boundaries, and we're going to start with some questions. So feel free to unmute and answer. Our first question is, what do boundaries look like?
There rules. I say rules you set for certain things in your life. Okay. Not rules. Maybe that's not the right word. Choices you set.
Rules you set for the choices in your life.
Yeah.
Different permissions or things you allow.
Okay.
Amen. That's a very good way to put it.
How do you say it?
Well, yeah, because we're used to clicking that stuff on the internet.
Yeah. For permission. Okay.
What about
Yeah, and then also, how do you create these boundaries?
You have to say it.
You have to be assertive.
You
have to be assertive and speak up. I mean, tell them. You have to say that. You have to put it in words. Yeah. That's awesome.
Also, you have to be, if it's someone that you think you should discuss them with the other person and give them the opportunity to tell you what their boundaries are, so that there's a meeting ground.
That's awesome. A conversation where you can talk and also hear. That's wonderful.
That's pretty perfect.
Yeah, you guys nailed it. So a definition, personal boundaries are guidelines, rules, or limits that a person creates to identify reasonable, safe, and permissible ways for other people to behave towards them and how they will respond when someone passes those limits.
So like you guys were talking about, it's kind of a conversation. You need to definitely put these in words and you need to set them properly.
Yes.
How to create healthy boundaries. Like you were saying, you need to name your limits. You can't set good boundaries if you're not sure of where you stand.
Next is tune into your feelings. It's important to kind of think about situations and how you'd feel if they were to happen so you can make proper boundaries. So kind of take time to be with yourself and think about possible scenarios and where you feel comfortable, where you don't, so you can really set those healthy boundaries.
You need to feel comfortable with your boundaries. You can't let them waver, which goes to number 3, which is being direct. If you're not direct with yourself and with others, then your boundaries will waver and it can have catastrophic
consequences.
Yeah.
So next is give yourself permission. It's important to be aware that it is okay and it is actually a good thing to set boundaries. You shouldn't feel uncomfortable or scared to do this. This will actually benefit all your relationships and you will never be in uncomfortable scenarios that you don't know how to get out of.
Number 5, which is practice self-awareness. If you're not self-aware of your boundaries, how are you gonna project those onto other people? If you don't know, then other people won't be able to know, and then that's where a miscommunication comes in.
Next is consider your past and present. It's important to kind of think of past situations and how you felt so that you can plan for future situations. So if you're thinking about things happened in the past and in your present, you're able to set up proper boundaries for yourself and for all your relationships.
Number 7, which is making self-care a priority. If you're not caring for yourself, how are you going to know where your boundaries are, and how are you going to know what makes you comfortable and what makes you uncomfortable? Like a good example is a hug. Are you comfortable with it? Are you uncomfortable with it? It's all about you and your self-care about it.
Next is seek support. It is completely normal if you're unaware of how to do this by yourself. That's why you have a support system, your close friends and family. There's also different agencies there to help you, such as mental health agencies. It's important to seek support if you're not sure of the steps to take with boundaries, so you can make them in a healthy way that will benefit your livelihood.
Number 9 and number 3 are very similar. You need to be assertive and you need to be direct, because if you're not either of those two, then you're not going to know where you stand with your boundaries.
And people will try to push your boundaries and they'll walk over you if you're not assertive with them. So it's important to really make your point clear so that they aren't tempted to kind of push your boundaries. And lastly, is start small. You can't expect tomorrow you to have all of these perfect boundaries with clear limits. It takes time to kind of go through life and see how you react to different situations so you can make your boundaries specific to you. So it takes time to kind of get to a full set of boundaries, but it's important to just do little by little to benefit your life.
And that goes with number 6, which is consider your past and your present. So if you're starting small, you already know what's happened in the past, so then you can take baby steps forward.
Yes, they all kind of work together.
So our next one is codependency. What is codependency?
So yeah, we're going on to this now, so feel free to unmute yourself and kind of talk about what you think codependency is.
What is codependency?
Were you dependent on someone else?
Yeah.
Okay,
For what though? What would you be dependent on?
what
Anything?
is this? Anything.
Me and my mom were codependent on each other.
Yeah. What do you think?
I think like, okay, I'm codependent with I'm gonna cry. That's okay. My daughter, so I was in sanctuary and I thought if she came, my stress about her using and being, all these things, I thought if I saw her and she was there every night, and that would help me.
Didn't help.
Not at all.
Cross the boundary. Right. That was a codependent relationship because it had that effect on
I thought that it would change. I thought that she would not be 22 and be the brain of a 40-year. Like she would, but it didn't, and it screwed me up in the process.
So someone else's actions have an impact on you.
Yeah. That's kind of codependent because I was codependent on the whole process, thinking that, I don't know, am I explaining the right thing?
You're doing great.
Okay.
You're doing great. Anybody else?
Sacrificing your own boundaries for somebody else's needs and not taking care of your own.
I was codependent. I wanted to fix her.
Okay.
You want to fix people.
Fix them. Okay.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Now, what does healthy codependency look like?
Healthy codependency look like?
When we talked today, I talked to my counselor. Healthy codependency would be her working on her, me working on me, and then we could get together.
Oh, that's well put.
Because we can't start step 1 together.
Right.
Because it's terrible.
So you work on you, they work on them, and then you guys come together.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I talked today with my counselor, well, one of my, tonight, I talked to them. And that's what we discovered, that would be a healthy choice.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. I really like that.
And next, what does unhealthy codependency look like?
Yeah.
A train wreck,
That's
okay.
okay.
Anybody
Or
else?
someone sees somebody maybe through the alcohol bottle and the other person waits, is that a codependency thing?
Using someone else in an unhealthy way,
Yeah.
unfair way, yeah, that
You'll
definitely.
just sacrifice your mental state, your emotional state, your own well-being to make sure that another person, their well-being is met.
Right.
It's very unhealthy.
Is that selfish though?
I thought an unhealthy codependency is when you have to say to do something for yourself that, and something that you know is right and everything, thinking that you need that person's approval to, say what you feel and, you know, and mean.
Yeah.
But the important thing is be sure of that dependency. I mean, you can't say this is the way it's going to be, and then halfway midstream you're going to change courses. You know, you're going to want to change everything from what it started out as, what you started out as your original goal, and you let go of that because you think you need this other person to say, yes, I'll let you do that.
So unhealthy codependency is when you fail to take care of yourself because you need someone else's permission,
Right,
kind of a thing.
right.
That was great. Thank
Would
you.
you rather make them happy than yourself in the moment?
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah, you guys basically nailed it. So now we're going to give you a definition of codependency. So codependency refers to a mental, emotional, physical, and or spiritual reliance on a partner, friend, or family member.
So, like we will be talking about in a few seconds, there's good and bad. So, it doesn't mean that codependency can always be bad. There is a negative aura around it, but there are some good qualities to this.
Yes. So healthy codependency is actually called interdependency. Interdependent adults have a strong sense of who they are and feel competent to navigate the world and express their needs. And then this is a main point, they accept help, but they don't rely on others for their self-esteem. So they're established in their own identity and they don't need others to make them feel good about themselves.
So, there's person A and B, and it's not just person A and A, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so if you are a healthy interdependent adult, you are confident in who you are and you will accept help when you need it, but you don't rely on others for your own self-worth.
So, some unhealthy codependency signs are a sense of walking on eggshells to avoid conflict with others. This is bad because if you feel like you can't talk to your partner or spouse or anyone about a conflict or something that's wrong in the relationship or with you or with them, and you just don't want to talk to them, that's walking on eggshells and it can be very devastating to the relationship.
Yes, you shouldn't feel uncomfortable or scared in your own relationships. You should be able to have productive conversations to resolve conflicts. So next is feeling the need to check in with the other person and or ask permission to do daily tasks. I think you guys mentioned this. This is like if you wanted to go to the grocery store, you shouldn't have to ask permission to do such tasks. You should have um, the independence to do things on your own without having to check in every minute and making sure it's okay with someone else.
Another sense of checking in would be asking if they're okay. Are they mad at you multiple times a day, multiple times an hour? Number 3, which I'm very bad about, often being the one who apologizes, even if you didn't do anything wrong. I say I'm a Southern Canadian. I will apologize for anything and everything, even if it's not my fault and it's the other person's fault.
This kind of ties into number 4, feeling sorry for the other person even when they hurt you. So if someone wrongs you, you shouldn't feel guilty that they did that to you. It's never your fault if someone hurts you. And if you're feeling sorry for them, you're taking on their guilt and their emotions because you are dependent on that person. You don't want them to be mad at you. So you shouldn't be apologizing for their actions when they're in the wrong, because then the cycle will continue and they'll hurt you. You'll apologize and it's going to continue and continue. So it's important to acknowledge this and stop this behavior.
So in a way, number 4 feeds into number 3, and then number 3 feeds into number 4. Number 5, which is regularly trying to change or rescue troubled, addicted, or under-functioning people whose problems go beyond one person's ability to fix them. There are mental health facilities and there's other types of outlets for people to go to. You are not responsible for that person's mental health. They need to seek out help for themselves. If you are not trained in this type of field, and if you try and help them, it can make things worse for them and you.
And if something were to go wrong and they didn't get help, you would feel such guilt that it would be really hard to get out of. So it's important to know the resources you have and to utilize them. Number 6 is doing anything for the other person, even if it makes you uncomfortable. So this goes back to boundaries. You shouldn't be um, going past your boundaries just to make someone happy. If someone is trying to push you past your boundaries, that's really can be abusive and you shouldn't be in that situation. So you shouldn't find yourself trying to please them and doing things that you're uncomfortable with just to keep the relationship intact.
Number 7, which is putting another person on a pedestal despite the fact that they don't deserve it. Honestly, you need to put yourself on a pedestal. It's your life and you need to be the one that's steering the ship. It should not be someone else who you think is better than you.
Yes, you are the main character of your own life. You are your own best friend, and you need to acknowledge this and take care of yourself before anyone else.
Mhm.
Number 8 is a need for other people to like you in order to feel good about yourself. So this is for all the people pleasers out there. It is impossible to please everyone. It cannot be your goal because if it is, you're never going to be truly happy. You can't please everyone. You need to always think of yourself first, especially with codependency and boundaries. And take care of yourself because you can't pour from an empty cup. So if you're not fulfilled, you can't help others. So you need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself and not just trying to please everyone around you.
Being a people person and trying to help and make them feel good, and which will then make you feel better, is in a way self-destructive. Number 9, which is struggling to find any time for yourself, especially if you have free time consistently going with the other person's. Like what we've been saying, it's just you need to put yourself first. You need to have your own time for yourself. You need to do self-care, because if you don't do self-care, who's going to do it for you?
And then number 10 is feeling as if you've lost a sense of yourself or within the relationship. So you need to have your own identity. Your identity can't be found within other people because if those people leave your life, you've completely lost yourself. So you need to establish your own self of identity and self-worth before trying to help others. Because like I just said, if you lose a friend or a partner and that was your whole identity, you've completely lost yourself.
Going on still with unhealthy codependency. Codependency is more than an over-reliance on another person. Like number 10 on the last slide, your identity is intertwined with your partners. So if they leave, who are you? You're going to have to spend a lot of time trying to figure yourself out. While if you would have already had your identity prior to being with that person, you're fine. Yes, you are going to be a little bit hurt, but it's going to be better than trying to start from scratch.
And then in a codependent relationship, your focus is on the other person. Your focus, it's okay that you want to help others, but you have to help yourself first. So you can't only worry about someone else. You need to worry about yourself first and then others.
Your goals and needs and interests are suppressed and ignored. If this happens, then when you are by yourself again, you need to start from scratch. So if you already have your needs and goals and interests set in concrete, then you're kind of a step ahead.
And then it is possible to be an independent person but still have codependency. This is when you're able to like take care of yourself and pay your bills and check off your checklist, but you still have an unhealthy need to be needed, and that keeps you dependent on someone else to make you feel worthy and lovable. So if you're still relying on others to find satisfaction and self-worth, you need to take time to figure out what's going on with yourself first and then try to go back and mend your relationship. Okay, and now we're going on to enabling. So some more questions again. The first one is, what does enabling look like?
What do you think? What does enable?
Enabling, I used to do my mom with her pill addiction, because, oh man, when I was like 17, my stepdad died of a brain tumor that he had, right, that they took out, so he had some heavy duty meds, and, this is, when I was little, my age 2, my mom abused pills a lot. I don't remember it. Then she got sober, and then when I got my 20s, I started seeing it, more often. Well, when my stepdad died, I was 17, 18. No, I was like 18, he made it to my graduation. She was taking some of his pills. So I went in the room and I emptied the bottles down the toilet, and I didn't know not to do it down the toilet, and then put the empty bottles back in the drawer. She came in like exorcist, give me my pills, and I was like, ooh. So I I couldn't give them back to her because I had flushed them, but, enabling her is like just letting her do it. Like the next time she would do it, I didn't even get involved, I didn't take them. But then when I saw her, like she aspirated her lung, she almost went into like a coma because she wouldn't respond to me. I had to call 911 several times. That's when I stopped enabling and said, you know what, if I keep enabling you, you're gonna die, and then I gotta live with it. Oh no, I don't think so.
Yeah.
So I called 911 on her whether she liked it or not. I didn't care. She got mad. I took the pills away. I didn't care if she got mad. I take away and leave the house, so she couldn't come after me.
Right.
But yeah, enabling's dangerous. And like my brother, when he was going through his alcohol problems, he kept wanting more alcohol, and he'd throw up. Then he wanted more alcohol, he'd throw up. And he was in that point of almost alcohol poisoning. And if I would have kept doing it, so I took his keys, I took his wallet, he'd get mad. If he kept doing it, then he would have died of alcohol poisoning. Then I would have had to live with that.
Yeah.
So enabling could be bad.
Yeah.
Very dangerous.
Facilitating harmful behavior to others, and you didn't do that.
No, I stopped because I was like, I'm not gonna be responsible for you dying, and then I gotta live with it. You're self. Then I get mad. How selfish are you?
You called
Then
that out.
I get mad because that's selfish of you to put that on me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Enabling too is when you find yourself, making excuses for the other person
Absolutely.
to justify their behavior.
Yeah. Making
So,
excuses.
Yeah, and.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's true. It's a good point.
And it's like my mom would say, I took these pills because I'm in pain. Well, yeah, you are in pain, but you're taking them too many. Yeah, come on, you're taking them to the point of, come on now, you know you ain't feeling no pain now because you just running circles around me, number one.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Another form of enabling is like when you're in a relationship and kind of you know it's toxic, but you try to stay away from this person and you know that they're pushing you to talk to them or mess around with them when you know that they have this other relationship and it's toxic for the both of us. Like anything can happen. Like they're enabling me to do better in a way, and then it's enabling me to like just stop doing what I'm doing, like tend to let what they have.
Yeah, like allowing an unhealthy relationship to continue.
Or even like financially, if you know someone does something, you keep giving them the money because they blow theirs maybe in an improper way.
Financially enabling, that's great. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
Thank you.
mentally too.
Mentally, yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, that was awesome examples. Thank you for sharing. I think you kind of talked about how it's already bad, but how do you know if you are an enabler?
How do you know if you are an enabler?
You can't say no to somebody.
Yeah, keep letting your boundaries get crossed.
Yeah.
Or you don't have any.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't say no for the longest time until it got so bad where I thought, well, man, now it's life or death.
And then you're pissing them off, and then that's.
Well, no, they were pissing me off because he kept putting me in that position. I was getting mad and hurt. You know, well, maybe it was hurt because hurt is anger's an underline, or no, hurt is underline. One of those is underline. Like the anger, hurt. Yeah, like it's really hurt. It's not anger, but it's anger that I show because you keep asking me to do this. You know I don't want to. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
Anger is secondary.
secondary. That's what I'm
like,
trying to
like
say.
she said, like it's
There's
like
something that
when you're in the
causes it
same
first,
mood
yeah.
or like in the same mental state of mind, and you just like you be there, like you're enabled to do the same thing, or you're enabled, like you just can't change.
You can't say no.
You can't say no.
Yeah, no boundaries.
No matter how bad it's hurting you.
You know,
I said no because God said she like no.
Good for you.
No,
Yeah.
I want to show to God. I'm free to.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you again for sharing. So,
Enabling can be described as a pattern of a behavior that becomes organized among family, friends of not just an addicted person, but any person who is exhibiting poor choices that harm themselves or others and for which they can not be held responsible.
so just to simplify, you guys basically covered it. You're allowing people to continue to make bad decisions, and you're not holding them accountable. So you're kind of just sitting idly by, or you're even helping them do those things.
And it might be that you don't realize that you're helping them. It's just you're not stopping it.
So enabling behaviors. The one thing that most enablers have in common is they love someone who is out of control and they find themselves taking more responsibility for the actions of that person than the person's taking for themselves.
Which is bad because they need to take the responsibility on themselves and you are not supposed to take it. That goes back to the boundaries and that goes back to the codependency where you're taking it all upon yourself and you're not letting them have a piece of the pie, basically. Enabling versus empowerment. Enabling behaviors can often seem like helping behaviors, while empowering is when someone doesn't mean solving or covering up the problems. Empowering can mean giving them the tools or access to resources and even teaching them skills such as coping skills or other types.
So a big thing here is with empowerment, you're not taking responsibility of the other person's actions, you're helping them get help. You're giving them resources, you're giving them tools, but you are not being responsible for what they are doing.
So this gives them a sense of worth once they find themselves in this empowerment.
And some independence to make some smart decisions. So now just a quick recap before we end. Boundaries are guidelines, rules, or limits that a person creates to identify reasonable, safe, and permissible ways for other people to behave towards them and how they will respond when someone passes those limits.
Codependency is a mental, emotional, physical, and or spiritual reliance on a partner, friend, or family member. There's good and bad, and they can be mixed, but it's better to go with the interdependency.
And then enabling, this describes a pattern of behavior that becomes organized among the family and friends of not just an addicted person, but any person who is exhibiting poor choices that harm themselves or others and for which they are not being held responsible. So these three terms all kind of go together, as you've kind of seen. Boundaries, codependency, enabling, they are all intertwined, and they're important to establish these for any healthy relationship.
It's also good that these three are intertwined because they are about putting yourself first and not taking too much responsibility on yourself for another person. You are your own actor on your own stage. You can't put someone else as the main actor.
Yeah, so if you have any last questions, we'd love to hear them now, but if not, we'll go ahead and end this.
Any thoughts or questions anybody wants to share?
Yeah, I do. Okay, so what do you do? Cause, okay, so this person, I deleted his number. I just left him alone. I didn't ignore him. What do you do if this person hangs out the same place you hang out at? But sometimes I do. Like I'll go there and then I'll go there for like a week or two, which is kind of my fault because I shouldn't be on it there, or, you know. But when this person does come up there, they're like, you know, lovey-dovey. You're trying to like when they know mentally. It's just a game. They're gonna tell you anything else you want, and you just like doesn't care. It's not uplifting me, not giving me resources, not doing none of this. So what if this person texts me back? They have my number.
Okay.
Text me back, or even try to like run on, you know, like set me up for failure. And I'm like, I know this person out there.
So what to do if someone crosses your boundaries and they're in an unhealthy relationship, and sometimes you can't avoid them. They're in an environment that you can't leave. What do you do? Is that the question, kind of? Okay.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? Did you hear that?
Yeah.
So if someone's crossing your boundaries, the thing is to have a direct conversation with them so that you can no longer allow it to happen. If you never address it, it's going to continue to happen and continue a cycle. So first thing you need to address it with the person so that you can make clear where you stand on your boundaries.
You need to be assertive when you're having this discussion. You cannot waver when this is happening because if you waver, it allows the cycle to keep happening.
And then if you can't avoid the person, like if you really can't, then you can't, but you can attempt to not confront them like every day. So if they're like in your workplace, you can just not try to have conversations with them and just kind of set limits on if you want to be involved in their life. But the main thing is just taking care of yourself and your own mental health and emotional health, and making sure that you're okay with that person being in your life. And if not, then you need to figure out a way to mend the relationship or terminate the relationship.
And it's good because it seems like you know that you have your boundaries that you need to set, but it's also seeming like you are already taking part of self-care, which is a very important part of living, which is you have to put yourself first and not the other person.
Yeah, did that kind of answer your question?
Okay, there we go.
Do you have a way to, like, if you have to be in the same place, like say the library once or whatever?
Right.
Can you walk past them without looking for he or she? Is there a way that you can like know that they're coming and then direct your attention somewhere else?
I mean, yes, that is possible for me. Like, say I have his number, so I'll be like, don't come up here, I'm up here, just to stay away from him. And
Don't let them know where you are.
no, that doesn't matter because he can just pop up in my life. If I'm at the same place he is, then and he comes around, I already have my attention to somewhere else, like beforehand. Like before I go through with somebody else, and who's doing better than he is.
Right.
It's not even worth. He's not even talking about honestly.
First we block his number and then just.
No, I blocked his number. Oh, block it. I didn't
Block it.
Yeah.
So you go in there and you block, you go to the contacts, you go up in the right hand corner and you hit that dotted thing. And then you block his number, and then whenever you see him, if he starts to talk, don't even talk to him, just keep going.
Just keep walking.
Yeah.
Right. You
So
establish
you have
the
to start
boundary.
like showing him no
Yeah, and I have been, and I've been saying
at all.
like I've been telling him, okay, well, I'm finna use. He doesn't like that. Oh, I'm finna use because in his mind he just got out and he's in a sober head and he's looking to find his way back out into the community. So it's like, okay, I know these things. So it's like, oh yeah, I told him I said I'm gonna go use, but I'm not gonna go use. I'm not planning on using that. That's not. I'm not. So I just told him that. He said that because if I do go use, he's gonna stay away from me. He's not gonna want to see me. Blah, blah. I said okay. So
Fine, I'm
every time I
high.
see, I'm high.
I'm high now.
Yeah, but I leave. I leave.
Right. Sounds like he's not healthy
Yeah.
in your relationship. And you need to take care of yourself. And so
Yeah.
they said terminate those relationships that aren't healthy for you.
Period. Even
And
Jesus says it in the Bible.
No,
Right. It's for real.
And if you see him and he's in a place where you are, just go to another corner, another table.
Yeah. You don't have to give him any explanation.
Yeah.
You don't have to tell him anything.
Nothing.
You don't have to say anything to him. Just do your thing, ignore him, walk away and block his number like you don't exist. And if he doesn't get it, that's his problem. You know what I mean?
You need to
As you already
But
said,
at
all
the
you
same
need
time,
is to
I'm
say.
not gonna have
Like,
somebody harassing me.
Or if he
Yeah,
harasses
whoever.
him, then take it a step higher and go get a restraining order. If he's harassing.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
one factor is that this person's not supposed to be around anything else or whatever.
If you
There,
feel,
that's even.
if you
even
feel
more.
it's dangerous,
It sounds like there's boundaries that are set and they just need to be enforced,
Yeah.
right? Not feeding into it. So
yeah.
Yeah, it's good that you're aware of where you stand. Sometimes you don't just completely cut the person off and just have them out of your life to try to mend what's been damaged. You can't just continue to try to fix everything.
And don't feel bad about any of the no contact. You need to put yourself first.
Yeah, that's why you have boundaries, to take care of yourself and to not feel guilty about it.
Bam.
So yeah, we're gonna just, I think, end it here. Thank you guys for letting us share this with you, and have a good rest of your evening.
you guys okay if we turn the camera on?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.